Hitting over 200 frames per second in the latest, most demanding AAA games, you'd think that would cost an absolute fortune, right? Well, what if it didn't? What if it was actually affordable? It sounds kind of crazy, I know, but today we're going to dive into a PC build that might just shatter everything you thought you knew about budget gaming. So, here's the deal. We're going to find out if a PC that costs about 17 million Vietnamese dong can actually deliver that super smooth, high refresh rate experience. And I'm not just talking about esports titles, I mean in those big, beautiful, graphically intense single-player games too. All right, let's meet the machine at the center of all of this. The components in here were picked very, very carefully to get every last ounce of performance out of a pretty tight budget. So let's pop the hood and see what we're working with. Okay, so take a look at these parts. The heart of this thing is an AMD Ryzen 5 7500F and an NVIDIA RTX 5060, sitting on a budget-friendly A62 motherboard. All sounds pretty solid, right? But look at that last part. 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM, but it's just a single stick. That means it's running in single channel. Basically, the CPU has a smaller highway to talk to the memory, and that can really slow things down. It's a potential bottleneck for sure. We're definitely going to come back to that. So why go with the Ryzen 5 7500F? Well, it's a really smart move, especially when comparable Intel CPUs start getting a little too pricey. The 7500F is just a fantastic alternative. Yeah, you might lose a little bit in heavy multitasking stuff, but for gaming, its single-core performance is absolutely killer. It's just a really clever, cost-effective choice for a build like this. All right, enough talk about parts. How does this thing actually perform? For its first test, we're not messing around. We're throwing it right into the fire of competitive gaming to see if it has the muscle to keep up with a super-fast esports monitor. And wow, the first result is just wild. We're talking Counter-Strike 2, one of the biggest esports games on the planet. And this PC, it hit a peak of 300 frames per second. I'm not kidding, that's not a typo. 300 FPS. Okay, but a peak number is one thing. What does this actually feel like when you're playing? That's what matters, right? Well, even when things get crazy and you're in a massive firefight, the frame rate stays locked around 200 FPS. So what that tells you is this PC has more than enough horsepower to make a 240 Hz monitor sing. You're getting that super fluid, buttery smooth gameplay that gives you a real competitive edge. And get this, remember that single stick of RAM we talked about? All this incredible performance, it's happening with the PC kind of fighting with one hand tied behind its back. Esports games are super sensitive to memory speed. If you just popped in a second stick of RAM to get dual channel working, these numbers would jump even higher. It's crazy to think there's still performance just waiting to be unlocked. All right, so it crushes esports. That's awesome, but that's only half the story. What happens when we throw those huge, gorgeous, super demanding AAA games at it? Let's really turn up the heat and see if this so-called budget build can handle the newest single-player titles with all the eye candy cranked to the max. And the answer? Oh yeah, it can handle it. In Cyberpunk 2077, a game that's famous for bringing PCs to their knees, this machine pushed over 300 frames per second. I mean, that's the kind of performance you'd expect from a PC that costs double, maybe even triple. So what is going on here? How is this even possible? Okay, let's break this down. Take a look at that first column of numbers. This is with a feature called frame generation turned off. This is just the raw power of the hardware. And honestly, it's already really good. 130 FPS in Black Myth Wukong, 190 in Cyberpunk, that's nothing to sneeze at. But now, look at the column on the right. You flip one switch, turn frame generation on, and the numbers just go through the roof. We're talking double the performance in some cases. So what's the bottom line here? It's pretty simple, really. If you're gaming on a full HD monitor, this 17 million Bondi PC isn't just good enough. It has the power to let you crank every single setting to the absolute max in pretty much any new game and still get these ridiculously high frame rates. Okay, so what's the secret sauce? What is this tech magic that's letting a budget GPU punch way, way above its weight class? Well, let's pull back the curtain on the real MVP behind these numbers, a technology called frame generation. To put it simply, frame generation is a super smart AI feature from NVIDIA's DLSS tech. Think of it like this. The GPU renders one frame, then it renders the next one. The AI looks at both of those frames and says, I can predict what should go in between them.
and then it creates a brand new frame out of thin air and slips it in the middle. It's not just copying and pasting, it's making something new, and that's why everything looks so impossibly smooth.
Now, NVIDIA's not the only player in this game. AMD has its own version called FSR. They both do the same basic thing, boost your FPS. But there's a bit of a difference. From what we're seeing, NVIDIA's DLSS tends to look a little cleaner, with less blurry motion. On the other hand, some AMD cards might give you a bit more raw horsepower before you even turn this stuff on. And this right here just shows you the insane difference it makes. Let's use Black Myth Wukong again. You're starting out at a super solid 130 FPS. That's great, you'd be happy with that. But then you click one button, just one, and you enable frame generation. And boom, you're instantly in a whole different league, flying past 200 FPS. It's not just an improvement, it's a total game changer. So, after seeing all these crazy numbers, the big question is, should this be your next PC? We've seen what it can do, for sure. But to really answer that, we have to step back and look at the whole picture, not just the highlights. Because let's be real for a second. A build that costs this little is gonna have some trade-offs. It has to. You never get something for nothing, especially when it comes to PC parts. So, what's the catch? What are you actually giving up to get this kind of performance for this price? All right, let's lay it all out, the good and the bad. The pros are pretty obvious. The value for your money here is just insane. It's a monster for full HD gaming, whether you're playing esports or AAA stuff. And hey, you can even do some light video editing on it. But the cons are just as real. That single stick of RAM is going to be a problem in some games. Don't even think about serious ray tracing. That's a big weak spot. And in games that aren't optimized well, like Monster Hunter World, you might run into some annoying stutters. So what's the total damage to your wallet? Well, the PC itself is around 17 million VND. You can grab a really nice, fast, full HD monitor for about 3 million more. So all in, you're looking at a complete, high-performance gaming setup for around 20 million VND. I mean, you just have to stop and think about that. That is an incredible deal. And this all leaves us with the really interesting question to think about. This kind of tech, like frame generation, it's not just an update, it's changing the whole game. When a PC that's this affordable can give you performance that just a year or two ago you'd call elite, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does high-end even mean anymore?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.